Hello, and so nice to be back in person. I think you said that as well. It's going to be a good day anyway, and good to see that you didn't stay at the bar outside because a lot of you were hanging there. I saw that, so thanks for that. I'm Mads. That's the picture used on Facebook, the one on the right. That's the best picture taken of me in years, but that's just basically who I am. So I'm the COO of PreSeed Ventures. And I think I'm called house expert on teams and scaling. And that is what I spend most of my time doing. I am also, however, responsible for commercial activities in PreSeed Ventures, mainly the liquidation of our portfolio. So I do a lot of different stuff, and I serve on some boards and so on. I came from economic before I joined Seed Capital and now PreSeed Ventures 6 years ago, where I was people and strategy. I work people and strategy in that team. So I took the journey a couple of times before, and I quite like that. Okay. Before I start, maybe I should say something about this topic. I've been talking quite a lot about it the past couple of years. I think it's very, very important that when you listen to it, you don't take offense by it, because I'm not here to offend anyone. But I also feel it's my duty to enlighten us all a bit about what kind of journey it is that we are going into when we get venture funding. So in that topic, I'm going to call this a game. And there are a lot of games out there. There are a lot of good games. This is the venture game. And the venture game is a particular kind of game. And this is what we're talking about today. It's about time. And it's about spending it right. It is a global game, which means that every time an investment is made here with us in Lyngby, there have probably been sort of similar investments taking up all around Europe and especially the rest of the world, which means that we are all racing to win. And this is sort of the game that we are trying to win. That is the VC game. So you can ask yourself, what does that have to do with teams? And I would answer right away that it has everything to do with teams. So we are looking for people that will spend their time right. I think this illustrates it, Lasse. Thank you very much. Very good. We are looking for people who will spend their time right and who has the grit to stay on course, because this is also very difficult. And if you imagine that all over the world, VC investors are investing at the same time, and we're all trying to hit the same mark, it is about getting the right teams and getting them to perform really good. So that's why we say, we will never invest just in a product and a market if the team isn't there, but we are more than happy to invest in a team that's really good if the product and the market's not there yet. That's sort of what we do. So what does a rockstar team look like these days? Well, so in very, and I hope you can see this, very short terms, we're looking for someone in a combination of 2 or 3 that are strategic visionary, someone who can build the product, also see it from a strategic point of view, and someone who at some point will develop some kind of commercial understanding on how this product should be brought to market. That is sort of the thing that we are looking for. We might not find everything right ahead, but definitely the traits will be there when we go ahead. And then we're looking for the right CEO to lead the team. This doesn't mean that co-founders are not important at all. Not at all. But when you pick a CEO, and maybe Melina will touch on that at a later stage, you pick a CEO, that is very much what we are looking for. That is the strategic visionary person that we are going to base our whole business on. And as you see, and many of you, I know a couple of you here have already taken a bit of the journey, the team will change as you go through maturity, as you go through funding rounds, but the CEO will remain the same. So that means already in the beginning, we're going to focus a lot of energy on who is going to front this company. That's very important to us. So this is an outlier game, right? So as I said in the beginning, there's a lot of games here. The venture game is one of them. It's a particular game. It's a pretty harsh game. It's also a game where, as you said in the beginning, Camilla, 3 out of 4 will fail. Some of them will fail because they don't hit product market fit. Some of them will break up because of founder issues. Some of them are just not capable of taking the journey. But it's also something about that investors have to pick a certain number of companies to keep on funding. There's simply not enough money to keep on funding everything. So what we're looking for is outliers. Outliers will pay back the fund, right? And if you think about what outliers really is, and if you break it up and you put it into teams, you put it into product and so on, outliers is really something about the extraordinary. And I heard many times during my 6 years that, but this is good enough, right? This is good enough. It must be good enough. And that's true, but we're not looking for good enough. We're looking for extra good. We're looking for extraordinary. So just to give you a couple of examples of people that I think are extraordinary and to explain why I think they are, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and I guess you know most of them. Maybe a small note on that. I'll come back to that. So Margrethe Vestager, for example. And this is not a political statement at all, but this is a woman that is taking a stance against tech companies all over the world on behalf of the European Union. And I can promise you guys that even though she's smiling on that picture, this is a goddamn hard job she has. But she stays, and she has the grit, and she continues, right? So that's extraordinary. She could have stayed here. She did something else. She put herself out there in competition with everyone else, and she got the job. Wenger, the master of chairs. I think he has a slogan somewhere that says, I'm allowed to make mistakes. He will never stop. He will continue. He will stop. I'm sorry. He is stopped. But he would never stop. And that's because he was striving for perfection, but he wasn't afraid to fail. That's also a really, really good capability to have, right? Then there's this guy that I guess most of us know, Daniel Ilk, who took it upon him to, and I think they have somewhere say they democratize music, but it's just for me an example of a unicorn that I think is actually doing something good out there, right? So the whole journey of going into a market where the music industry were basically sitting on everything, challenging that, staying the course, getting the funding, getting the pivots along the way, doing something else, changing the team, and still staying the course. That's a really good example of that. And these are some of ours. Maybe you can see them. I think you're here as well, Malene, down there. Yeah. Handsome faces here. These are some of our champions, right? This is some of the people that we believe are going to make a difference and that we believe will win in their sector, in their vertical along the way. Some of the traits that I'm looking for also when I talk about finding out profiles, executive traits, back to it's very important who the CEO is. It's someone that are able to lead others, not manage, someone that are able to lead others, back to this strategic visionary profile, presenting, inspiring, so you can read what it is, but also collaboration. Collaboration is extremely important. And then the final one, and I think that's quite interesting as well, above average capacity. That means that these people are also very smart. And that does make a difference in compared to staying the grid as long as they can, being able to change yourself along the way is very important. But what else do they have in common, you could say? Well, I think they have that in common that they are able to go out on the thin ice, right? And not just go back in, but to stay there, to see what happens. Of course, you need to recharge sometimes, but in reality, what you are doing when you are embarking on a venture journey is really that you're saying yes to 10, 12, 15 years of your life, to something that you don't know anything about, and you are going to be in the forefront of that. And it's always going to happen on Fridays when you're about to go home, and it's all going to land on you when something goes wrong, and you say yes to that. And to be able to stay in that situation is something that takes something special, and that's what I think they all have in common as well. I sort of try to, to sum it up in I know there's a spelling mistake. You told me that, Camilla, but we take it as it is. In 3 words: tenacity, susceptibility, and capabilities. Tenacities, I guess you know, staying on, keep on doing it. Susceptibility, I think, is very interesting because it's sort of tied to capabilities. Susceptibilities is the ability to understand where you are not the best to make the decision and to reach out and find out who will be the best one to ask to get advice. I know it's complicated, but the ones who ask the right people for advice is also the ones that win. And then capabilities. You simply need to be a bit smarter than the rest. And then, of course, a bit of Pippi Longstrømpe. It doesn't hurt a lot, but just as we say in PSV, det har jeg aldrig prøvet før. Det kan jeg godt finde ud af. And then we see how it goes. That takes a lot. I'm a bit hesitant about showing you the next one because it's an example of a profile of someone who is doing really well. But I'm going to show it anyway, because it's sort of a look into the engine of how we, as one of the tools we'd use in assessment, are looking at founders when we meet them first time. So this is John Doe. Meet him. He is not average at all. And the first way to see why John is not average is that when you look at the Ravens up here, which is capabilities, which is IQ, he is on the 85th percentage, which means that he's doing really, really well. He is also fit in most of the traits that will show that he is a strategic, sound mind. And he is extremely good at building relationships and self-manage. So in this sense, let's say this guy or girl comes into our offices, we would be very interested to talk to him. We don't know this until afterwards, but this is some of the tools that we sort of submit people to in order to understand who they really are. And on that note, I think my time is up. So for questions, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Time for questions?
If there are, yes.
Yeah.
So what you're asking is that if you're, and you correct me please, right? So if you're a solo founder and you build a product, how would we look upon that if it was a good product, right?
For most founders, we don't have that much capital for salaries.
Yeah.
It's quite high expense.
Mm.
So I was wondering, quite often over time, we're really automating a lot of stuff like graphics or technical work and code. Sometimes you buy things for $30 instead of spending $3,000. So for example, in my case, we've built a product that I think is quite extraordinary in our opinion. I'm saying we, it's me and another guy actually.
Also, yeah, too.
It's just, part-time. So when you were saying team, are you talking about full-time or are you talking about people part-time? And what's your opinion on good products built by solo founders?
Okay, so 2 questions there. So I think it's totally fair that you start something on the side of your full-time job, just to get it going. And that makes a lot of sense. That's a smart thing to do, right? If you have rent to pay and so on. I also think it's smart to try to hack it and to automate as much as you can. But at some point, and back to this, at some point when you get funding, you are going to have to build a team in order to be able to scale at one point, right? So, for example, I'm sure that if you're really good at building products, you might also be good at talking about it, but you might not be the best to commercialize it, for example. So just trying to de-risk the case a bit by dividing the different functionalities across different persons, right? And then there's another thing. We see both solo and single founders and couples coming in and so on. It's also it would be good to see the ability to attract some cool people. That's a really good thing, because you can't do anything alone in the long term. So, but if the product is cool and the market is cool and the CEO and or the co-founders are cool, that's a good place to start. And I mean, you can look 6 months down the road. Let's see what's in it, right?
Sometimes when we build products, they come out as free, so we can't really display. We can't retrieve capital to get more salaries. So I was wondering if we're releasing a free product, or if it's just one solo founder that's releasing a free product, and we can't get too many people to jump on board yet. How do we attract VC, considering that the VC is looking for a team, but we can't afford to get a team because our product is being used because it's free at the moment?
I think you should talk to us anyway.
Okay, cool.
You know, that's a good idea. And then we can always. I think everyone who comes into sort of a process, getting an investment with us, is also never leaves without some kind of advice on how to move ahead, right? So Open Door, for example, as Camilla just announced before, is a good way to get in there. Also, just sending a pitch deck, and you will definitely get feedback. And you can also say if there is a product is free, you can probably show that there's a lot of people who use the free product and they keep on using it and so on. So maybe there's something in there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hi, thank you. Excuse my voice.
That's okay.
That Hogans model, I think
Yeah.
that's what it was called. It was really interesting, and the one next to it, obviously, just as well. Is that something that is out there for people to self-assess with, or is that something you've come up with and it's your internal metrics that you use once you've had a meeting with a founder?
That's a good question. So Hogan is an available tool that you can buy, and then many people, many organizations use that. What I think is interesting about that tool is it actually shows us how we behave when we're not at our best. And that is mainly what we will see here, right? So we're always going to be under pressure and so on. The combination of the tools is something that we put together ourselves. But otherwise, you can pick it up at any store near you.
And would you recommend founders using it pre-interview?
No. I know you can assess and you can train and everything, and you know, I know people do that, and I think that's fair. But we'll figure it out somehow.
You had a question?
The question is, what if founders are convinced that they are good, but they may not be? I mean, it could be a CEO, a great visionary, he thinks, and the team is very good. Do they hit the wall when they come to you? Is that where they should get the experience, or how would you recommend them to work with that?
I think that's a fair question. I believe that. So we see a lot of companies every year, right? I can't remember the exact number. I think I have a partner standing down there, but I think it's something in the vicinity of 700-800 companies. And we don't make 700 or 800 investments. So that means that there are a lot of founders that go through this circle that are not going to be accepted. So, and some of them are, you can say, are told to go back and refine the idea. And some of them are told, you know, we don't see this, you know. I hear what you say, but I don't get it, and all sorts of feedback. I think we are not blunt, but we are very direct when we give feedbacks. There's there are many sorting hats going on before you get in there, and some of them are just, you know, sorry, we can't see it.
So you think they should learn from experience?
I think they should, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And don't give up. If you really think you have something, come back. That's not uncommon heard of. I mean, some people come back again and again, and sometimes, you know, it happens in the end. It might be a refinement of the idea, a component on the team, maybe the market develop on the side, maybe they come up with a different, you know, way of going to market, something like that. So, yeah. And we make mistakes too, so.
Yeah, so one final quick questions.
Can you hear me? Is it?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay, we're two guys here. We are considering if we should team up and become co-founders.
Yeah.
And besides the normal kind of advices with the discussing back and forth, agree who roles, all that. Do you have any or a couple of very good ideas what we should dig into to find out if we are a good match or not?
Is it? Are you just meeting tonight, or?
No, it's actually it's almost
date.
it's second date. It's 24 hours ago.
Okay.
Second
Okay.
date, first base.
Second, first base. I think first base is a good first start, right? Well, I think you need to dig into this project that you obviously agree upon, and try to figure out, what roles are you confident playing, and what do you need in the end if you need a third co-founder, for example, and then you're probably going to give it some time, right? Because one of the things of seeing a team is not, and this is not you as an example, but 3 people meet at a bar. Day after they get to a pitch and you go, here we are, man, we can do all this, blah, blah, blah. But you sort of, you dig in and you have track together of some kind. It doesn't have to be a long time, but you can sort of see when it's like hearing an orchestra playing. You can hear if they played together before. That's very important. And also being honest about, what do I want to do with this company? Do you see it the same way? Because you see a classic founder breakup is normally something about people not being aligned when they went on this journey before. Some just they think it's nice, and they haven't expected all the commo, which is that's another game, as I talked about. That's okay, and then some want to take it, all the way. So you need to develop that sort of alignment together, and only you can do that.